jainworld.com 25 years of service to Jainism.
Jai Jinendra and welcome to you all. Today we'll be talking on modesty, supreme modesty, Uttam Mardam. Mokshamargasya netaram bhetaram karma bhubhrutam jnataram vishvatatvanam Vande Tadgunalabdhe Vande Tadgunalabdhe. There was a man and he did a lot of worship, a lot of penance and wanted a God to give him some blessing. After years and years of worship, finally God was pleased with him and he said, "Okay, ask what you want. I will fulfill your desire. I will fulfill your wish." And the man said that, "Give me a blessing. Whenever I want something, I will immediately get it." And God said, "Yes, I grant your blessing, but there is one small condition. Whatever you get, your neighbors will get double that. So whatever you get, your neighbors will get double that. But otherwise, I have given you the blessing that whatever you want, you will get." The man went home and he was thinking and he said, "All these years of my prayers and God give me this blessing that what I get, my neighbors will get twice. So is it a blessing or is it a curse?" But he said, let me try it out. And he sat and he said, "Let me get one palace." And here the palace was there in front of his house. And he went out and saw that all his neighbors have two palaces. Now, when the neighbors have two palaces, his one palace has become meaningless. If he would have got the palace and the neighbors would have got nothing, then the palace was of value. It would have given him some prestige in the society. But now that he has a palace and all his neighbors have two palaces, means really he has become poorer compared to his neighbors. And so he became very, very sad. He said, "Oh my God, I was really cheated in giving this blessing." Because when we ask something for us, that is only one part of it. But there is a hidden agenda, a second part, which is as a hidden agenda, which we don't speak, but we want, is that I get something, but all others do not get that thing. And this is where the deeper part of the ego has to be understood. So you want something, because you want to be special. You want to be better than others. And so, in the second part, you say, yeah, but my neighbor should not get. And here, the God gave a blessing where you get something and your neighbors get twice. So, really, that blessing was like a curse. And so, in reality, really, when we say that we want something, means we also are saying that others should not get that. And once we understand this deeper layer of ego, then $1 million question will come. How do I overcome this type of ego? And Bhagwan Mahavira has given a very, very simple solution. Extremely simple solution that everybody can follow it. So we have a desire to get something, and for that we are willing to do lot of hard work, lot of efforts, weekends and late nights and all that, and we are running after achieving that. So Bhagwan Mahavir says that to counter that is a very simple solution. What you want for yourself, ask the same thing for others. And what you don't want for you, wish that the others also do not get that. So what we want for ourselves is all good things. We want big house, we want money, we want diamonds, we want prestige, we want good name in the society, we want the bank balances. So if we ask the same thing for our neighbors, that desire, that want is destroyed at its root. Because if all your neighbors are getting the same thing, you are getting that becomes meaningless. You go and buy a diamond necklace. And why we want diamond necklace? So that when you go to the party and you wear that diamond necklace, and in the party, then people will come and ask, oh, very beautiful diamond necklace. Oh, from where you got it? How much it's costing? And who created this beautiful diamond necklace? And all that. And you get a lot of attention. That is what you want. You want a lot of attention. You want a special position in the society that others will come and be envy of you. This is exactly what we want. But if you ask the diamond necklace for others, and so for example, you go in the party and everyone in the party has the same diamond necklace as you have. No matter how expensive that diamond necklace is, no matter whether you brought it from Paris or Belgium or from wherever, no matter how beautiful is the craftsmanship of that necklace. Now, because everyone has that same necklace, the value of that necklace for you is zero. Its value is only if you have it and others don't have it. So Bhagwan Mahavir says, what you want for yourself, ask for others. So this is the way you kill your desires at the root. Before it is born, as it is born, and before you spend so much time and efforts and money and all the hard work for getting that, you kill the desire in the bud. The second part is we don't want a lot of things, like we don't want diseases, we don't want misfortunes, we don't want a lot of other bad things. And so Bhagwan Mahavir says, same you wish for all others, that let not any bad thing happen to my neighbors. So in a nutshell, this simple sutra will kill the competition. Really, basically, it is a competition between you and your neighbors and people surrounding you, that you want to be better than them. And this simple sutra will kill that particular competition. So, modesty is a second petal in our inner flowering of 10 petals. And this is very, very important, because as we know, as we have seen earlier, that all the bad things, all your enemies are inside you. Your anger, your ego, your desire, your greed, they are all inside you, in your inner, in the Antar-Atma. And whatever is happening in the outer, in the Bahir-Atma, is basically a manifestation of the root which is inside you. And so outside is just the manifestation, its reflection, its shadow. So the purity has to be done inside, going in the inner, going into the Antar-Atma. So as Bhagwan Mahavira has said, transcendate your Bahir-Atma, go into the Antar-Atma, and then do the purification. And so the ego is inside. Modesty is an antidote for the ego. Modesty is the anti-missile for the missile of ego. Modesty is a medicine for curing our ego. And so, to understand modesty is basically to understand the ego, its various facets, because ego comes in many forms and in many shapes and in many ways. Hundreds of different ways ego can come and fool us. And so understanding of the ego at a very, very deep level is extremely important for us. And that's why we'll be focusing this more part on understanding the ego and remembering that that is because of some impurity inside us, impurity in our Chetan Shakti because of the karmic influx. And so our ultimate goal is to go into the Antar-Atma and get into the purification process. So the next aspect of a sort of ego, one we need to understand, is the knowledge. Ego about our knowledge. Today we are all educated. This was never the case in the past history. In the history of humankind, today we find majority of people educated, having good university degrees, having many years of education. And so naturally the ego related to knowledge is very strong in us. Very strong. It is very subtle, but it is very strong. And this young man went to Einstein And Einstein was on his deathbed. And this young man, he was himself very bright, and so he thought he is very, very knowledgeable. And so he went to Einstein and said, "Sir, you are such a knowledgeable person, such a wise person. And so, how do you feel now that you are so much knowledgeable?" And Einstein has said that, "Look, when I was young like you, I was thinking I am very, very knowledgeable. But as my so-called knowledge increased, I realize that what I know is very small. And more I came to know, I realized my knowledge is smaller and smaller and smaller. And today, I think my knowledge is just insignificant, just a drop in the ocean." He said, what an individual knows, no matter how intelligent he is, no matter how knowledgeable he is, no matter how many degrees he has, an individual's knowledge is like a drop in the ocean. So, what we can know, if that is the ocean, what we know is just a drop in the ocean. So, knowable is a ocean, our knowledge is a drop in that. And Einstein further told him, "Look, and what is knowable is like a drop in the ocean of that which is unknowable." So there is something which is unknowable, which is like a ocean, and within that just one drop is what is knowable. You take that drop out and make it as big as an ocean. And in that ocean of that which is knowable, what you know is like a drop. So really, friends, our knowledge is really, really insignificant compared to what is knowable, and much less significant compared to what is unknowable. So any ego related to knowledge is really not worth having it, and so we should sort of be very, very modest about our so-called knowledge. As we said, the ego comes in many forms and many shapes and many sizes and in many ways. And another ego is about our power, our money power, or our influence with others. And we need to really re-examine this aspect. So whenever we think we are some great person, having so much money or having so much other power, we need to really go deep inside and try to understand the reality. Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, was traveling from one city to another. And he reached the city where he wanted to go. And he is sitting in a small room in a guest house. And While traveling, his shirt got torn off, and since he had only two shirts, so he, he was sitting there and stitching his shirt. And one man walked in and paid his respect to Guru Nanak. And Guru Nanak was stitching his shirt. And this man said, "See, I am Mr. X, and I am a very, very rich person, richest person in this town, and I have great influence, and even the king will listen to me and do what I said. He will never say no to me. So, sir, if you have anything to be done, just let me know, and I will get it done in a flash of a minute. Just very quickly, I will get it done. Anything you need, and I can get it done." And then he is waiting for the response from Nanak. But Nanak is busy stitching his shirt, which was torn off while he was traveling. Because he had only two shirts and he will need the other shirt next day. So he has to stitch it now. And 2 minutes pass, and this Mr. X thought, Guru Nanak has not responded. Maybe he didn't hear what I said. So he repeated the same thing. And he said, "Sir, I am the richest man in this town, and even I have great influence on the king, and I can get the things done. So if you need anything, please let me know, and I can get it done immediately." And Nanak, he had just completed his last stitch, and so he took out the needle from the thread because he completed the stitching, and asked the man, "Can you put your right hand ahead?" And the man spread his right hand. Guru Nanak put the needle on his palm and said, "Please preserve this carefully. This is a very important needle for me, very valuable for me. Please preserve this, and when I need, you give it back to me." The man literally laughed and he said, "Sir, don't you worry, I will preserve it because I have a lot of safes. I have so much money that I keep in safes, and I have a lot of safes, and all those safes are guarded by armed security guard. So your needle is going to be very, very safe." And then Guru Nanak told him, "Yeah, and when we meet in the next life, I want you to return this needle to me. When we meet in the next life, I want you to give this needle back to me." And so the man got a really a big shock. And he said, "Sir, but I am very sorry. I cannot take this needle to the next life. No matter what I can do, I cannot take anything from this life to the next life. Not my money, not my diamond, not my property, not my name, not my fame, not my status, nothing I can take. When I die, I have to leave everything here. And so the man realized the limitations of his money power. And this is exactly what we should always remember, that whatever we have, it is a transitory. Imam Anicham, a beautiful sutra given by Bhagwan Mahavira to control this type of ego, that Imam Anicham, whatever we have is a transitory. It is not permanent. It is going to change. And it is not mine. It is just a coincidence that these things are with me. Because if the death is able to take away all that I have, then how can it be mine? So Imam Anicham is another important sutra to be followed to sort of control our ego of this type, that I am a very, very powerful person, that I can do this and I can do that and I can do that. Nothing wrong in having that type of ability, but thinking that that is the ultimate power is what is wrong. So the reality of Imam Anicham, this whole thing is transitory. It is going to change. It is not permanent. And once we are aware of that, our ego would remain completely under our control. We will be following modesty rather than the ego. And so, knowing that which is transitory is extremely, extremely important for us. And that is how we need to be able to, think about all those things. A man was passing in a jungle, and it was little bit of dark in the jungle, not much light, and he's walking, and suddenly there was some object which got kicked by his leg, and he didn't bother. He thought must be some stone or something, and he is continuing to walk. Suddenly a human voice came, "Oh man, walk with awareness. Look down and then walk so that you don't kick out the things around. What you kick around." And he's looking around what he kicked, and suddenly he found there was a human skull of a dead body. And he was listening carefully, and he realized the human voice is coming from that skull. And the voice continued, "Don't kick around me like this. But there was a time when I was a big king. The skull was on the top of a body of a big king, and my head lied one of the most expensive crown of that time, and I was very powerful king, and my kingdom was so vast. I had millions of soldiers, thousands of horses, elephants, powerful military. I had so many palaces and I was so powerful. But one day, everything collapsed. I just died, and now my skull is being kicked by anybody and everybody who is passing on this path. So, amen. Be careful. Think about all this and then walk. No use of having too much of pride. No use of thinking that you are such and such great. Come back to the reality and understand that everything is temporary. Everything is transitory. And so, guys, we should also know that whole thing is transitory, and this will help us to remain modest and control our ego. Ego is not only for what we possess or other things. The ego could also be linked to our past and whatever great things we have done. Whatever we think the great things we have done, we always carry that ego with us. And then our behavior will be controlled by those previous, what we call as our glories. And we need to be very, very careful of that aspect, because that is not really quickly visible. It is sort of invisible ego. And there was this king, and he had a good kingdom and prosperity and big palace and queens and big army and everything, and his kingdom was very prosperous and people loved him, respected him. And one day one monk came and was staying outside the city, and a king somehow liked his simplicity, his knowledge and other things. And he said, yeah, I want to become your disciple. Can you accept me as your disciple? And the monk said, really? But if you want to be my disciple, then you have to leave everything and come. And the king must have been really brave. And he said, yes, I will come to you, leaving everything. So this was a morning time. And so he returned to his palace, handed over kingdom to his son, handed over all other things to everybody, relevant people. And in the evening, he came to the monk and said, I left everything and I have come to you. And the monk must have been really crazy, because he drove him out. He drove out the king. And he said, I told you to leave everything and come, you are carrying so many things with you. And the king said, no, see, I have transferred my palace, I have transferred my kingdom, I have handed over my all the wealth and everything, my title, my clothes, but the monk closed the door of his hut and he said, you just be outside. And the king now has nothing because he left everything. So he's sleeping outside under the tree. And so morning, the monk came and said, okay, you can stay inside the hut with me now, but on one condition. He said, whatever condition, because now I left all everything and came to you, became your disciple. So he says, here's the garbage. And you put that garbage in a big basket and carry it on your head. And you have to walk through the main road in the kingdom and put the garbage on the other side of the city. So this king, who was king yesterday, and taken this garbage and walking through the main road of the city, and everybody laughing at him. He said, he see this stupid fellow, he was a king until yesterday, and now this stupid fellow is carrying a garbage on his head. And as he's walking, people are commenting, and one fellow came and he banged into him. So all the garbage fell down. And the king collected the garbage and then started arguing with the man. King said, yesterday you would not have done this. You would not have banged into me. And you would not have talked like this. And so as he is passing through, he is arguing with the people that, hey, yesterday you would not dare to do all those things. But somehow he went and put the garbage on the other side of the city and then came back. And the monk said that you need to do this for 30 days. And the king many times thinking himself, I must be real stupid and idiot. Left the palace, left the kingdom, left my authorities, and now I'm carrying the garbage on my head. But now there is no going back. And so next day also he is carrying the garbage on his head and going. But today, not as many people commented on him, not as many people took notice of him. And nobody banged into him. And the king wasn't feeling as bad as he was feeling yesterday. So slowly and slowly in a week, now the king is carrying the garbage from one end of the city to the other, but now no one is noticing him. No one is commenting on him. And it has become a routine. And 30 days passed. And then the monk said, now all your ego about what you were thinking of your greatness is gone. Now you have left everything and come, and now you can become my real disciple. So the idea of our greatness in the past is what holds on to you for much longer time than the diamond or gold or other things holds on to you. So this is a subtle level of ego we need to understand, and we need to take steps to overcome. And that's why when we go to the inner, because as we have seen, for purification we have to go to the inner, to the Unter-Atma. And to go to the inner, we have seen that we have to do Kayat Sarga. And to do the Kayat Sarga, we have to do Manogupti, Vachan Gupti, and Kaya Gupti. So our ego related to the past is really can be controlled when we do the Vachana Gupti. Because with the Vachana Gupti, as we had seen, We forget the past, the burden of the past is taken out, and we forget the burden of the future which has not yet come. So the past which is gone and dead, and nobody can change, not only we, but nobody can change. No matter how powerful, how strong, how influential one is, we cannot change the past. And similarly, the future is yet to come. And so, getting rid of the burden of the past and the burden of the future, which we will achieve by Vachanagupti, and that's why a Vachanagupti is part of the transitioning between the outer, that is Bahir-Atma, to the inner, that is the Unter-Atma. So, a deeper layer of ego is what we have to understand, and we need to start working on that. The next important part is the ignorance, our concept related to the beauty. Now, there are a lot of people who are handsome, there are a lot of women who are very, very beautiful, and our concept of beauty, and this thing need to be re-examined. On one side, we know that beauty is skin deep and it is temporary and it can vanish anytime. So this there was a contest to identify which is the most beautiful hand. Just the hand, whereas other body is not into the picture. And so a lot of beautiful hands took part, and some were highly decorated with different things and a lot of golden ornaments on the hands decorating, and a lot of bangles, diamond studded, and a lot of rings in the hand, and all other type of ornaments, and people taking care, very smooth, nicely washed, and putting a lot of things to clean it and make it look beautiful. And there was one hand which was old, very ugly, and very, very rough. The fingers were rough, the hand was rough, and everybody is laughing how this hand is competing with all other beautiful hands, and there is no chance this hand can win. It is so ugly. The fingers are rough and tough, and the whole palm is rough and tough, and it is such an old hand. But the results were announced, and to everybody's surprise, this ugly hand was declared as the most beautiful hand. And people started inquiring, how come this ugly hand is being declared as the most beautiful hand? And then it was found out that all other hands which were looking sort of very beautiful outwardly, those hands were busy snatching the food from others' mouth, slapping somebody, torturing somebody, giving pain to somebody. And this ugly hand, so-called ugly hand, was always busy feeding people the food, wiping out their tears, hugging them when they were in pain and suffering, trying to help them in every single way. And that's why that hand had no time to beautify it in that sense, to put the uh, diamond bracelet or the golden ornaments or the decorative cosmetics on that. And really, friends, the ego of our outer beauty prevents us from doing the things which are the inner beauty of ourselves, which makes our inner self rich. And so, as long as you are focused in the outer world, as long as you are focused only on your body and the things related to your body, you will overlook this aspect of the beauty. But as you go into the inner and start blossoming your inner self, creating those 10 petals, then you will start understanding the real beauty of yourself. The real beauty comes by helping others, by understanding their pain, misery, and suffering, and doing your best to help them in those areas. So, going from Bahir-Atma to Unter-Atma and doing purification is one important aspect of our being. And we need to make sure that the ego doesn't camouflage those good qualities in us. Another important aspect of ego, because ego makes us suffer. Those who have a strong ego, their life is miserable. There is agony in their life. There is anger in their life. There is a frustration in their life. And once you are able to get into the modesty, all those misery, suffering, pain, inferiority complex, anger, hatred, all those will go away. And you will have all the positive qualities. You will be able to understand the others, understand the pain of others, understand that ego is false. It is coming out of my ignorance. And once I start knowing more and more, and my ignorance, the darkness of my ignorance is eliminated by the light of the knowledge, then I am able to control my ego, and I am able to control the negativity which comes with the ego. And one of the important things of my ignorance is I do not understand who I am. Because an ignorant person identified himself with his body. Rather, he thinks his body is himself. So once you think your body is yourself, then you are going to do things in a different way. So then for you, the money is important. For you, all other things, related to the body are important. Your name is important, your fame is important, your social status is important, your bank balance is important, your house or your cars or your branded clothes, all those things related to your body, they become more significant for you. they become more significant for you. But as you your ignorance about yourself is decreased, like you start understanding that I am not my body, and so everything related to my body is not what is related to me. I am really, when you go into the inner, you realize your real self, your real personality, your real persona. And so you realize that, uh, yes, you are staying in your body, but you are really a Chetan Shakti. You are really a Atma Shakti. You are really part of your Atma. That is what called Antar-Atma. You are part of your soul. So this distinction will help us in getting rid of lot of uh, ego-related things in our life. Because the moment we realize that uh, I am much different than my body, I reside in my body, but much different, and my inner personalities and inner traits are much more different. And so, these 10 attributes or 10 virtues which we are talking about is really part of your inner being. And all impurities are there in your Chetan Shakti. And because of those impurities, your manifestation of that, the shadow of that is happening in the outer life. So once you realize that your purification is inside and your attributes, real attributes are inside, and that is where you need to focus. And once you go there and start meditating upon all those things, you will realize that my name or my body attributes, like whether I am beautiful, I am ugly, I am tall, I am short, whether my color is white or brown or black, and how big is my name and how big is my bank balance, all those things are really not integral part of you, but they are there with you. You are associated with them, not to dilute the importance of your body, not to dilute the importance of other things which you need for your livelihood, but you need to understand your real self. And when you understand your real self, you will say that real self cannot be identified by a name or by bank balance or by status in the society. That is a part of your personality. Your inner being is the real self that you are. And that's why the selection is really focused on purification of that inner self, transformation of that inner self, making that inner self a much better thing, removing the impurity from there and enhancing the purity. And as you do that, you remove the impurities, your whatever you call as the pain, misery, suffering in the outer will considerably reduce. You will be a different person. You will be able to manage your problems in the outer in much better way. What are our problems in the outer? That there is uncertainty, there is a fear factor, there is an inferiority complex, there is a competition, and that brings you the stress, and that brings you the strain, and that makes you to keep running after certain things day in and day out without giving you a time to sit down and do the self introspection, to find out really what is your ultimate goal in the life. Are you going in the right direction? Are you spending your energies in an optimum way? So this mad rush in the outer doesn't give you that time. And this 10 days of the selection is the ideal time that you go into your inner and try to understand your personality, try to understand what is the purification process, and then go in for the purification. As you purify yourself in the inner, your problems and other things in the outer, you get the skills and tools and techniques to handle them in a much, much better way, much, much intelligent way. You can use your wisdom only to attend to those problems which are really problems and not the pseudo problems. In today's life, we waste a lot of energy and time and effort in solving the problems which are pseudo problems, the problems which are not real problems, just because of our ego or because of our anger or because of our greed. We think they are the problems. We think that person is a problem for me, and that other person is a problem for me, and that other person is competing with me. No, this is all you feel because of your ignorance. And that's why Bhagavan Mahavir says all your enemies are inside you, within you, in your Antar-Atma. And once you tackle them, the enemies in the outer is just the shadow. As you tackle the inner, purify it, the pseudo problems which exist in the outer world can be taken care. You get the skills to handle them in much more intelligent way, without getting stressed, without getting strained, without getting burned out. And ego is one thing which burns you out much faster than all other attributes. And that's why understanding the ego at its deeper level is extremely important and a very good step towards self-purification. The whole aspect of self-purification is to make your day-to-day life much, much better. Instead of stress, strain, anxiety, fear factor, inferiority complex, and depressions, the same energies can be converted into love and friendship, compassion, festivity, celebration, caring and sharing and giving. And your life will really start blossoming into a beautiful flower. And that blossoming has to take place inside, inner, in the inner. And that's why we are calling this 10 days as the blossoming of your inner. And that blossoming, we are focusing on the 10-petal flower. And today we were talking about the second petal, which is the modesty, supreme modesty. That is, remove the dominance of the ego. Because ego is controlling you. Ego is deciding what you do. Ego is deciding what is your priority. And instead of that, if you replace that ego with modesty, your life is going to be much, much nicer, much, much better. And not only your inner flower will blossom, but the fragrance of that will spread all around you, and more people will be motivated to get into the inner and start their inner blossoming process. So, in summary, friends, ego comes in multiple shapes, multiple sizes, in multiple ways, dressed in multiple forms and shapes and sizes. And we must spend time and efforts in understanding these multiple layers at which the ego is penetrating our life, and then use the modesty as an antidote, use the modesty as a counter missile, so that the ego does not bring destruction and other negative things in your life. We have seen only very few aspects of the ego, and there are many, many more aspects we need to go deeper into it and start understanding. When we get some other time, we will talk more about the other attributes of ego and other way the ego comes and affects our life. So with this, friends, we conclude today. Om Arham.
Jainworld.com 25 years of service to Jainism.